back into ranked. Okay, so we are up here against Shreddigar, which is interesting considering that, well, we're coming up on an old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set. And we...
Try again.
Oops, pressed the soundboard by accident, my bad. Right, we have in our hand the Symbiote Spider-Man, Skivix the Augmenter, which put in a big show during this set. So we'll open with Tri-Land. And I see Rakdos Land, so I'm instantly like, okay, I'm going to hold up Vanishing Verse, and we get Weapons Manufacturing. So this is a Grixis Artificers deck. So I'm going to throw down Skivix the Augmenter here. 4 toughness is hard for them to deal with unless they have something crazy. But we see a Pinnacle Emissary and a Dragon Spark Reactor. So they start making a ton of little things. So let's get in with Skivix here. This is me checking the Spark Reactor. We find a Niv off the top, which is perfect, so we'll play another land and play a Biotech. This will guarantee us our 5th land, unless we have to Tyrant Scorn anything insanely crazy. We see a second Pinnacle Emissary, so I'm going to destroy that before that goes off here. I just want to try and cut off some things. And they go for a Torch the Tower. Yeah, so the interesting thing with the deck is Pinnacle Emissary is great, and you can usually get value out of it. The problem is, obviously, because a lot of their ETBs are causing triggers, we can respond to them and kill the Pinnacle Emissaries. Right, we get a Niv off the top.
Reload!
And we find a full spread here. I'm going to take the Normal Lies over the Supreme Verdict. We are in the superior board position here, so I'm just going to keep... I'm tempted by an answer, but look at my hand and we've got plenty of removal. Let's get another land drop to just make sure we can keep hitting them. They hardcast the Pinnacle Emissary. The Dragon Spark Reactor is up to 4. There's a Memory Guardian. Pinnacle Emissary is such a good card. Okay. We're going to get an Ancient Cornucopia over here to just guarantee our life total doesn't change too badly. And then I'm going to Dragon Spark Pulse the... I'm going to Maelstrom Pulse the Dragon Spark engine because it has 6 counters, which would be enough to kill Niv here. So, let's trade it back here. With the Ancient Cornucopia, I'm not too worried about the pace. However, that Weapons Manufacturing does get me scared. So, I'm going to take out the Pinnacle Emissary before they can make more tokens. They tap it with a Spingleleaf Drum. Well, we choose to gain life first and kill that. Then I'm going to use a second Molten Collapse here, Memory Garden. I just want to put the pressure on and keep him down. So, we have Niv and Skivix, so we swing in. They're going to block Niv and use the token as a Shrapnel Blast here. However, we do have a No More Lies, so we can counter that and keep Niv alive. Skivix digs, and we find Kolaghan's Command, which is amazing in this matchup. Destroying an artifact and stuff is great. They concede. We did have a better pulse there. So this is kind of like the Shrapnel Blast Is It in Soul deck, I think. A new build people are trying. Pinnacle Emissary is chef's kiss amazing. The one thing though, it doesn't appear to have as explosive a hand as some of the other like modern, obviously as more of the modern version. However, it's similar to dealing with an aggro deck. We just got to keep the board clear and answer the mega appropriate threats with the with the appropriate removal. For example, we saw in that match they had Weapons Manufacturing. So we know that they have enchantments and other permanents which aren't creatures, so we should use our creature removal sparingly. This hand had a 3-to-4 ratio with all 5 colors and removal spells. Yeah, we're going to keep this. So there's an island. So we can just play slow here. We have Helix to answer a creature that comes down. I'm looking at my options. I'm going to shock in. I want to present that I have something here. They know that we have counter magic, so they might play cautiously with it, or they might just go Hail Mary. There's the Fortsies. We'll let the Fortsies go here. All 3 of our removal spells are relevant in this matchup. We have all our colors, and a Cavero, the Mind Bitten, could be anything really late game. Right now it's just a generic 4-4. So they take the Molten Collapse, that's expected. There's an Niv Mizzet, so we'll play slow. Up to 4 mana here. The one thing I was conscious of here could be a Metallic Rebuke. There's a Tezzeret. They're going to try and cast a Pinnacle Emissary, so I'm going to respond by letting that come in on the warp. And then with the response to Tezzeret's trigger, I'm going to Helix it. Then they'll get to search and find something. Finding a Terrarion. Right, play a land and use Maelstrom Pulse here to get rid of Tezzeret before they can shoot or get any more value. There's a Terrarion into another Terrarion. I am concerned they could have a Metallic Rebuke here. So I'm going to run out of Cavero as a test, and he instantly goes through. So that reminds me they might not have the interaction that I'm thinking of. However, with the current situation, if we wait 2 turns, we can guarantee a Niv with a normalized counter. But at this point, our opponent just taps completely out, so I'm like, okay, we'll go straight for the reload.
Reload!
It's a rough reload with only 2 cards. However, swinging with a 4/4 puts him down to 13. There's an Unlicensed Disintegration, which takes care of Niv, so we are in a race here. Right, swinging with Carrero, the Pinnacle Emissary, I guess. They are on 12. There's a Weapons Manufacturing, which is scary. I'm tempted to go Normalize into Vanishing Verse here. However, I decide that I think because I only got 1 black, it's better to just Vanishing Verse that. So it's a 12-12 race. It's a Coalition Relic. I'm going to attempt to Normalize here to see if they counter it. They don't. Right, second land down. Let's bring to light again. I think we just reload again. It's 1 card to them, and oh, they concede. Yep, we get a pace out there. Good game, sir. Alright, second match in ranked here, and this one was quite interesting actually. So I think our opponent was playing a fast game, because I saw a basic tapped Shivan land here, and I think our opponent might have been on a test game, because what this deck is, for those who aren't aware, this was one of the Challenger decks that was released a couple of years ago. It's the Jeskai Fires of Invention, which is built around basically Sarkhan and a few other things. But there's a surprise in this deck. So I Vanishing Verse the Omen, because I'm thinking this could be a kind of control deck, and, you know, I'm just going to hit that now and see what happens. So I'm going to fire off Skivrix, making his 2nd appearance this game, which is absolutely crazy. There's a Sprite Dragon, so I'm like, okay, maybe this is Jeskai Prowess, a budget build. So I'm just like, okay, we'll hit him for 2, and we'll see what we find. There's removal on another land here, and right now the key thing with Niv decks always is to get to 5 lands. So let's play this tap land and hold up our interaction. But I decide I'm going to Helix now, because if they have a bunch of cantrips, that dragon could be bigger than I could kill it. There's a Sarkhan the Masterless, which is very interesting to me, because I'm like, oh, this looks like Jeskai Sarkhan. So using the removal spell here, I'm going to kill the dragon, then we'll swing in for the 2 on Sarkhan. Because this is a Universes Beyond card, it doesn't trigger on Planeswalkers, which is, you know, one of the complaints I've heard a lot of people talk about, is a lot of the removal from Spider-Man does not deal with Planeswalkers, because there's no Planeswalkers in the set. They attempt for a Decadent Dragon here, so this is where I see this, and I'm like, okay, so this is some kind of Jeskai Dragons deck. Like, my brain is just going around, and I'm like, what is this deck? So, I play Biotech Specialist, grabbing our Lander token here. You'll notice we haven't found a Bring to Light yet. There's a Fumigate, and this is where I'm like, oh, this is just the Sarkhan list that's been changed a little bit. For those who aren't aware, it's a deck built around Fires of Invention, and then using Sarkhan to just animate the Planeswalkers. So I'm like, okay, so if I just keep their Planeswalkers off the board here, I'll be pretty good. Pretty sorted. Yep, and this is where I'm confirmed. There's a Kasmina that gives basically pseudo ward 2 to all the creatures and Planeswalkers. Now, I use Skivrix's Augmenter ability here to put a counter on Yorion, and I'm like, you know what? I could swing in here, hit for 5, and dig a top 5. Yeah, where are our Bring to Lights or Niv Mizzets here? Like, spoiler alert, we get through half the deck before we find one. And if you notice a symbol in the top corner, I was very suspicious of this, because I looked at this and I was like, oh, this guy is in his rank up match. And I'm not finding my killer big finisher card. And I'm like, huh. That felt like... I know it's a conspiracy theory and there's no grounds to it, but it is always funny to me how it feels so real. It's like, this opponent here is on his rank up match. So he gets matched with me, a guy who's in a rank above and doesn't matter. And yeah, I'm finding all my spells, but my big creatures that are going to close out this game just do not want to show up. So let's get rid of Sarkhan and Vanishing Verse here, swing in, because now another 5. So I'm sure we'll find a Niv or a Bring to Light. We don't. We find the Supreme, and I choose not to play Supreme because they've shown that they have, what's it called? The board wipe, the Fumigate. So that would get round. So I'm like, okay, we'll let them attack here. And yep, there's a second Fumigate, so I'm glad I didn't take that. We're getting just tons of removal. Again, we're just not finding anything. We did hit a Niv though in the funnily enough, in the dig with that Wandering Mind. We did not hit. This is me just looking at my graveyard going, where the hell are my Bring to Lights? And I was like, wow, I'm going to hardcast a Valky before I find a Bring to Light in this matchup. So I'm going to plus Valky again, finding 2 lands, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to gain a life here. I want my life total covered up and safe here. And then our opponent drops a Fire of Invention. I'm like, okay, yes, this is a Fires deck. Okay, I feel reassured. And then I'm like, oh dear, Approach of the Second Sons. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got to Assassin's Trophy the Fires now. And I could have done that after the approach. I probably should have. However, what I'm thinking of is I want to make sure if they have a follow-up here that they can't do anything crazy, but then they drop a Narset. And I'm like, oh god, I'm in trouble. And they Narset hit this approach. So I am dead next turn unless Tybalt or my top deck get me out of this. So I'm like, well, that's nothing, so let's see what Tybalt finds. He finds a Wandering Mind, find me a way out. And it hits me an Unmoored Ego, the one of in the deck. Not a Bring to Light, just an Unmoored Ego. And I'm like, thank you, Lord. So, this is also where I discovered there was a approach in their graveyard if I'd been paying attention. But if you look at their deck here, there's not a lot of other things they have to win here. Basically just the Sarkhans. So I'm like, you know what? I'll use your Narset to find a board wipe. I'll play this land and I'll pass it back. There's a Sarkhan, so they did draw one. We do have a Tyrant Skull though to deal with the dragon that they make. Obviously Sarkhan turns all Planeswalkers into dragons, which is could be a bit scary. Our opponent thought that the 2 Narsets cancelled each other out, I guess, or they just wanted the Scry. Fun thing, Narset only cares about any card that isn't your first card drawn that turn, so if he had opted in my turn, he'd have been fine and drawn a card. We find a Bring to Light here, so I'm just going to plus Tybalt here. And I'm like, okay, so I finally get a Bring to Light. I don't think there's many multicolored cards left in my deck, but I'm like, you know what? I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's just reload here.
Reload.
We do hit 3 cards, which is relevant. But what I am going to do here, I'm going to attack with Wandering Mind to kill the Sarkhan, and then we're going to use a trick here. So if you put a stop in their upkeep, the minute they draw, you can K-command, force them to discard and do something else. So I'm going to ping the Narset so they can't dig, force them to discard, that's a Healy. Now they can't dig a card out of this, and we have a Tybalt Ultimate come in next turn, so they concede to that. But yeah, the Shuffler did not make that easy, did it? You saw that we went through like 40 cards before we found Bring to Light on Niv. And I know that's just the variance of Magic. It's one of the fun things about it. Like, even the best deck will fumble occasionally. But I was just like, wow, that was a grind fest. So, for those of you unaware there, we brought in the Dovin's Vetoes because it feels everything in their deck is a non-creature spell. This hand is a little slow. I am a bit wary that they might have brought in counter magic for their sideboard, but Molten Collapse here on 2 could kill anything they get down, like say a Saheeli or a Narset. Planar Beacon definitely leans towards them having some kind of a Planeswalker on 3. They open with the Omen of the Sea though. But you'll notice we are flooding pretty hard here, tons of lands. So there's a Tranquil Grove. I'm going to get the Old Ancient Cornucopia out ahead of time here. I don't think, from the way I remember looking at their deck, when you looked at it pre-sideboard, they did not have a way to deal with other permanent types. They there's a Decadent Dragon to steal stuff. So I'm going to go straight into a Bring to Light here. You'll notice that we have 4 lands in hand and a removal spell. But also, knowing the matchup here, I decided it's better to go for Valky. As I said before, when we looked through their deck with Unmoored Ego, There is not a lot of stuff they have that can straight up destroy a permanent. It's basically just token creation and attack triggers. Unless they pulled one off the top of my deck, I think we're okay. So Wandering Mind here and Dig. Remember, they get 2 spells a turn here. And they find another Omen of the Sea. They play a Decadent Dragon here. So, we again, just going to uptick Tybalt. They're going to pop the Omen here. The smart move, they're going to in response scry 2 to try and give us a bad top deck. We'll take a land off them. No one's going to complain about that. I'm going to use my lands from my hand here. We're going to kill the Decadent Dragon, gain 2 life. And we can hold up their veto. So we'll just play this Biotech Specialist and see what they play with their turn. They got 2 spells, so there's a Sarkhan. I believe my best bet here is to counter this. So I'm going to use the veto from Tybalt to counter. And they do look at veto here and read that it can't be countered, which makes me think they might have some form of interaction. However, the problem is, obviously, they can't cast it during my turn, which is kind of downside of this. They attack in after hitting with a Helix, so we'll plus. We take one of their approaches, so they're still on the approach strategy here. We'll play our Wandering Mind, which is also another one of their Wandering Minds. I take a veto over that because I'm thinking to myself, if they have 2 approaches here and 7 lands, we could just die on the spot to double approach. So, yes, I could have probably it probably would have been better to take out the, in hindsight, definitely would have been better to take out the approaches with a Bring to Light into an Unmoored Ego. However, you know, hindsight is 20/20. So, Lander token gets us a land. We're just finding more lands, so just keep Tybalting. At this point, I'm like, yeah, you know what? We've got lands. Let's play a Sarkhan. Let's use your dragon strategy against you. Ironically enough, we could actually use that dragon strategy because we do run dragons. So I'm going to attack with the Biotech here, see if they want to block. They do. Which makes me think they really value the Narset trigger, or they have a board wipe in hand. So if they have one more land here and double approach, we're in trouble. So there's an Omen of the Sea. If I can get this Tybalt to ultimate though, we get both of the vetoes back and a ton of other stuff. There's the Fumigate we were worried, well, we knew it was coming. And Windows tries to restart, and I say no, I am doing something far more important than submitting to Windows 11. Get lost. So I'm checking the Fires of Invention here, that they can't interact into speed. I'm going to make Sarkhan and Tybalt creatures here. And this is a funny thing I was not aware of. This is part of the fun of when you borrow cards of your opponent. My plan here is once we ultimate the Tybalt, we could recast the Valky. However, funnily enough, because Sarkhan has made this a creature, it doesn't immediately die because we took all the loyalty counters off it, because it technically is a creature with toughness. So yeah, Tybalt survives. Tybalt is immortal now until the end of turn in a funny way. So with all of our things up on the side, I'll use a Wandering Mind here to dig, find a Vanishing Verse. I'm going to Vanishing Verse the Fires because then they can't double cast a Approach to the Second Sons. In response to me casting their Narset, they're going to opt. I'll use the Narset to dig, finding a Bring to Light, so next turn we can get rid of the approaches. We have double veto up for anything problematic here. Opponent's considering what to do. There's a Decadent Dragon as a 4/4 blocker. Right, pass the turn. I'm going to use this Molten Collapse that they know about. I'm going to save the cards in my hand. And I decide here, I'm going to dig, find a Helix, and then I realize I'm on a 2-turn clock here. With 10 damage and a Helix in hand. We have them next turn, so I decide I'm not going to overcommit with a Bring to Light into an Unmoored Ego here and tap out. We will just hold up the double counter. So they approach, we counter with veto, and we got it locked down because they're tapped out. So now we can play this land, Sarkhan, animate both their Planeswalkers that we stole, attack in for 10, then hit them with the Lightning Helix and take them out of the game. Yeah, patient playing there. We had Tybalt Ultimate and stuff. Well, our good luck ended here when we ran into the rock. Yeah, for those who aren't aware, the rock is a black-green, high interactive removal deck with tons of interaction. So they drop the Deep Cavern Bat. They look at this hand, and I think to myself, okay, clearly they take the No More Lies or the Niv Mizzet. They take Valky. They clearly have something in their hand they don't want me to answer, so I'm going to hold back this No More Lies. They're playing slow, so I'm going to play slow. I'm going to hold up a No More Lies here because I instantly know black could mean Shieldred, so I don't want to deal with that. So let's see what they play here. They go for a Glisser. I'm like, no, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to remove that. They drop and then I'm going to go Ancient Cornucopia into Biotech. Our opponent then goes into a Duress after they Eli out the Acolyte, which is basically a good draw effect. They Duress us, see that there's nothing they can stop the Niv with, and concede. I guess they were hoping to draw Fortsies here. That was a way too early concession. For all they know, we could have whiffed with the Niv and hit maybe 2 or 3 cards. But, you know, it is what it is. I guess as well, maybe they didn't have removal. Knowing that they're an Edict deck, I decided to take out Supreme, and I take out the Night of Autumn for some Fatal Pushes. They look to be lower to the ground. Then we get bullied with the Shuffler in both of these 2 games, and that's a surprise for what's coming up. So immediately Fortsies, and we lose the Molten Collapse. So they have this turn, though, they have a much better rock hand than you could imagine. So reckon a Bankbuster off of Fortsies. I decide to look at the hand, see what we're dealing with here. Valky sees an amazing curve. We take the Eli Arclight or whatever it is. They go into Lily. Down tick Lily, so they get back that creature. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to Lightning Helix this Lily to prevent that from happening. Then they top deck the Duress. They played very patiently there, very good of them. So I'm going to play a land here, and I'm going to hold up the, I'm going to bluff that I have an interactive spell. If I don't, I can just cycle the Sparta's Headquarters. So there's the Acolyte. They activate the Bankbuster. Hit us for 4. We cycle the Sparta. We do find a Bring to Light, and we get it down under the Torpor Orb here. So we shock in this land, Bring to Light, grab a Niv Mizzet. This needs to be a pretty solid Niv Mizzet here to help us out.
Reload.
We hit 3 cards. None of them deal with a Torpor Orb, which is unfortunate. So there's a Torpor Orb. Into a second Acolyte. And then look at my hand and I'm like, okay, I'm going to kill one of these because it's card advantage later in the game. And I consider, should I attack in? In hindsight, should have attacked in. I don't know why I didn't here. Maybe I was holding off. There's an Akazot, Deepest Betrayal. They don't attack. Shock in, play an Ancient Cornucopia here. I decide I am going to attack here. Put him down to 7. I'm going to play the Wandering Mind as a blocker. Then I can Helix on their turn as a kind of trigger to deal with whatever they do here. Except they draw Abrupt Decay, so we don't have the blocker now. They are going in for combat. This is me reading Aclazat and realizing it triggers on attack. So we're going to go with the Lightning Helix here. This is very close. We put them down to 4. They are going to gain 8. Then they go down to 11. Mosswood Dreadnought comes down. I put Yorion into hand here, and I attack in. Really should not have attacked there. Play Yorion, gain 2 life, hold up a blocker. They activate the Buster, making a pilot. They need to basically figure out how they're going in here. There's a second Acolyte. They attack in for free here. And I don't block. In hindsight, I really should have blocked. I honestly don't know why I didn't there. Put him down to 7. Oh yeah, because if we drew removal here for the Aclazot, we could have won with the attack. Fortunately, we didn't, so I decide to swing in with Yorion here to bait the block. Akazot dies. They are at 11, so we are dead to this attack. However, it is super close. So they go for Cruel Claw's Heist, gifting a card. I'm going to No More Lies here to counter it unless they pay free. Gain 2 life. We get a land. Land comes through. Play a land for them. They make a second Mosswood Dread Knight here. Crew the Bankbuster. And go to attacks. So, Cycle the Triumph, finding a Vanishing Verse. After attacks, we exile that 4. Then we block with Niv. And unfortunately, we were literally 1 damage too short. Like, if we had gained a little bit more life, we could have made that one. That was very cool. So, very close match. Unfortunately, the Arena Shuffler goes that we, well, decided that we didn't get to play game 3. Not much to say about it, if you're honest. Look at this. So, 1 land hand. Nope, can't keep that. 1 land hand again. Can't keep that. Oops, there's all your lands. So, yep, all our lands and not enough of our colors. And as soon as we draw interaction, our opponent will start drawing ways to actually make us discard it. As you see here, they didn't duress on 1 because apparently they knew that we didn't have stuff in our hand. We play a land, pass it back, grab Yorion. Sadly, they just go straight into the Acolyte. We draw nothing here, and I'm just like, okay, sure, we'll see what happens here. They attack in, we go down to 16, they draw a card. They have the Abrupt Decay, so I'm just going to Helix here. Put them back down to 20, stay on 21. They have a Liliana, and it's done. I'm just done at this point. We mulligan to 5, and they had a better hand, so good game.